I'm Afu Ratsamna, and I'm the Deputy Chief of Party of RANO WASH project. And I'm going to share this presentation on menstrual hygiene. And as you know, today is the fourth day, and the objective is to transfer the tools used by the project in the wash sector, and this is entering into the transition phase of this year. So we are on the ninth webinar. We still have two other webinars this afternoon on the market-based sanitation, and also on the dynamism of the monitoring and evaluation and learning of the project. And as we shared on the previous webinar, we also have the translation, French and English translation, which is available. You can also send your questions during the presentation or after the presentation during the Q&A. To start with, maybe a brief description of the project. This is a 6-year project, which is now at the closing phase, implemented by CARE, Serious Water End, and Bushproof and Santatran as part of the private sector. We've a budget of $33 million, and the mission is to increase equitable and sustainable access to water sanitation and hygiene for health, nutrition, and environmental protection. We have 3 components to contribute to the reaching of these objectives: the governance and the engagement of the private sector, the behavior changes and the use of the services, gender and social inclusion, which is a cross-cutting element. And on the left-hand side, we have the different communes of interventions. We intervened in 250 communes in Madagascar. This slide is showing the 3 points we'd like to discuss on this webinar. First of all, we're going to see why we talk about menstrual hygiene, and through the activities we implemented, and what are the tools related to this webinar. So to start with, why menstrual hygiene? According to GPS 2020, 70.62% of the population is under 30 years old, and 50.7 are women. We did some gender analysis for the project, and sometimes it refers to taboo subject in Madagascar, and when we speak of menstruation, and in Malagasy we say fatibulana, and in the households, in the communities, and we can speak of the roles of the elderly people and the men, and to make these services accessible, wash, health, and also education. And then we're going to share the outcomes showing the social norms on the gender analysis conducted by the project. Very few women are using appropriate hygiene pads, which is increasing health risks, and women are cleaning themselves once a day. They're using, in case of pain, they're using medicinal plants. And as far as the context in Madagascar, we confirmed that having her periods should not be known by the other individuals. And to cover there's no spatial space for the management of the menstruation in the households and in the institutions like the schools. Women and girls have the, the the habits to use the rivers to increase health risks, and which is exposed to bilharziose. And then we have sorcery, which is limiting the hygiene practices. It is, for example, forbidden for women and girls to dry their hygiene pads on unexposed areas to avoid to be seen. Yet those have to be dried under the sun. And the recommendation out of this gender analysis, as you can see on the slide, it is very important to provide women and girls the liberty and the possibility to integrate themselves. It's about their health and their body, so it's up to them to see how to properly manage the situation. It's also time to promote their competencies and their leadership, and we also have to mainstream women and women in the women. We also have to mainstream the man as responsible. So it is also important to understand the signs of on sexist violence, which is on at the disadvantages of the women. RANO WASH has developed a strategy, a gender strategy, which is treating the promotion of the menstrual hygiene. The gender strategy is based on the strategies of international care that you can see on the slide, with three principal components through the development of the confidence, the identity, and the understanding. The knowledge. RANO WASH proposed different trainings, and for women and youth, and for the other categories of people to be part of the decision making. And then the reinforcement of the relation with the power through the development of the networking and the promotion of women entrepreneurs with the financial institution. And the structures are working on the quality and access to wash surfaces. We also speak of the transformation of the structures and the social norms through the reflections conducted in the communities, and these tools, the tools of advocacy are used to facilitate the reflection in the communities to transform the social norms, which is preventing categories of people to enjoy the rights. Now let's talk about activities that are related directly to the promotion of menstrual hygiene. We put in place a few activities. We transform the social norms by facilitating participative activities like men engagement, social analysis and action. Social analysis and actions allow the community to be aware of the situations, and to overcome challenges. And men engagement can change men and incentivize men to give more opportunities to women in the decision making. And use, as you heard on the third first day of the webinar, we shared the different approach we used in order to change behaviors, and we talked about the grow up stickers, this flower that you can see on the left hand side of the slide. So these are the key behaviors in the households, and each petal is representing behavior, and the menstrual hygiene is represented by the red petal. We also supported the production of reusable hygiene pads in the communities through the trainings of local seamstresses. And actually, if women do not have access to those hygiene pads, they cannot ensure the menstrual hygiene, and that allowed us to promote the youth and women entrepreneurship. And to finish, we collaborated with women's groups and to use the social capital by leaning on the VSLA groups to improve their incomes and to give them the possibility to buy the necessary products for their hygiene. This next slide is showing the behaviors, the key messages. When we speak of menstrual hygiene, we can have a look at the three key practices: wash their hygiene pads, dry them, and promote dialogues on this subject in the households and the communities to help women and girls to have access to the necessary resources related to the management of their menstrual hygiene. The next slide will show the key results of the project in terms of hygiene promotion. We trained seamstresses, 475 seamstresses, and the existence of 22 men among those seamstresses to sew reusable hygiene pads shows the norm changes, and to see that men also are interested in helping women to manage their menstruation. 91,810 were sold, hygiene pads were sold. 22,372 households adopted the five key behaviors, and 30,688 were received the red petal to show that they are practicing those behaviors. And here we have the different resources, the tools developed by the project, and for the promotion of the hygiene. We divided them into five. We have the strategies. We saw the strategy for behavior change during the webinar on the behavior change, saying for the mainstreaming of gender and in social inclusion. Those two strategies are available on the website of the project. But we also have a document that we can revisit, showing developing the different strategies adopted in terms of menstrual hygiene, with some illustrations of the achievements of the project based on the menstrual management. You can have a look at the policies, the laws used by the project, and the reference of the project is in the elaboration of the strategies and the role played by the different categories of individuals. but also via the different tools or the implementation tools and the support for communication. The implementation for as for the implementation tools, we have the guide used by the seamstresses to sew reusable hygiene pads, and also the face masks used during the COVID-19 period. So we have the different types of tools we used for the promotion of the 5 key behaviors we showed during the slides on the behavior change. We also have the curriculum for trainings, and we used to promote the 5 key behaviors, and the tool, for example, with the grow up stickers. We also have a poster on menstrual hygiene to show the key practices so that the women and the girls can live with dignity their menstruation. You can also have access to those resources with those QR codes, and all the tools and the resources are available on the website of the project. So this ends my presentation. The remarks, the feedback, the recommendations are welcome. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. 475 seamstresses, did they receive any training? Yes, they did receive a training from the project on the designing of those reusable hygiene pads, but also on the use of simple business model. And we worked with You First, and it was already shared. The tools were already shared on the webinar on gender and social inclusion. One of the strategies is the youth and the women entrepreneurship. All the tools related to that are available online, not just to train the seamstresses, but also the local masons and I don't know, do you provide materials to those seamstresses? Not for all the seamstresses, but it depending on their performances. Those seamstresses, the most performant seamstresses, receive the sewing machines that they can develop their activities more. So if you want to speak in Malagasy, you can write in Malagasy, or you can ask the question in French, whatever language you'd like to use. Yes. Are you satisfied with the answer I gave? Thank you so much. That is responding to my question. What I forgot is, do we have a selling point, a market where we can have access to those products? One single market, for example, where we can find those products? That depends on the region, more particularly for Vatva Fitvnani. Some seamstresses launched a network of seamstresses to facilitate the access to inputs, but also the fundings. When they received important orders, they need, for example, more hands to cover those orders, and they asked us to support them to create that network, not for all seamstresses, but it depends on the initiatives of each region. I still have other questions. do they have the same prices? How about the prices? The prices, are you talking about the prices of the reusable hygiene pads? Yeah. No, the prices for those products are not totally the same, but during the training we provided to them, we taught them how to calculate the price of the reusable hygiene pads, and it is changing. Those are varying depending on the prices of the tissues and the fare, for example. And what we noticed, we can say that the prices are ranging and they vary between 1,500 ariary to 3,000 ariary. One thing I'd like to mention is because they taught how they learned marketing, entrepreneurship, how to manage the clients on a simplified way, and themselves have to adopt the models of hygiene pads for young girls, for women, and produced reusable hygiene pads for women after delivery. We also have different types of models. Is the connectivity off now? So we also have models of hygiene, reusable hygiene pads without using underwears, but just using elastics. So it depends on the region. Can we say that we evaluated the prices of those hygiene pads? How much are the underwears? How much are the underwears? No, we are not talking about the underwears, but we are just speaking of the reusable hygiene pads, which prices are ranging from 1,500 ariary to 3,000 ariary. For example, do we have a more reduced price? The more we have orders, the less the prices as. Yeah, that may be part of the game. We taught them the different types of costs of exploitation and how to get profits, and these are the types of trainings on the designing, the sewing of those reusable hygiene pads. They have to do some calculation before providing or proposing any prices to their clients. Thank you so much. My issue is for those seamstresses, do they have challenges related, for example, there's a seamstress A selling 3,000 ariary, one reusable hygiene pads, and we have two communes nearby at proximity, and they have different prices. But the community members, the women purchasing 1,500 ariary, and I think that those who are selling 1,500 ariary would have more benefits because more clients will come and see them. Don't you think that can be a challenge, problems for the project? Thank you. We had those feedbacks, similar feedbacks. We did not really have those feedbacks most of the time when we speak of two proximity communes or places. The quality of those hygiene pads are different. Both of them are seamstresses. Some seamstresses are producing better quality reusable hygiene pads. Some are producing less quality. Maybe that is the spirit. That is the spirit which is brought by RANO WASH. This is fully the engagement of the private sector, and those private sector are competing between themselves. And if we focus on social, it means we need subsidies, we need funding, we need supports for each interventions, and we taught them, we trained them to be independent and autonomous. And the most performant seamstresses receive their sewing machines. There are people who are born to be entrepreneurs. We push them forwards and we support them for them to have more access to services. And here we're speaking of, we are always speaking of change of paradigm, and we look closely, we focus on the private sector, speaking of business. And when we speak of the engagement, commitment of the private sector, we speak of profits, and for that we always say that we are looking at the users of the services. We look at the profile of those users, but also how can they attract people to use the services, but also on at the same time making profits out of those service provision. And that's why during the pandemics, they continue to produce those products. They even develop their products. They develop their entrepreneurship skills by producing face masks during the pandemics, for example. And this is to say that this is not just limited by social works, but before all that, they are private operators to make profits with those services. Thank you so much for the answer. Thank you for those feedback. Other questions or feedback? What did interest you based on the presentation you had? The documents are very, very interesting, but all the presentations, everything you said was very interesting, but we need those tools and documents, and for us to see the different steps and the valuing of women, so that these women can live properly with dignity and with liberty to face those situations during their menstruation. We're speaking of menstrual hygiene. It's very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your feedback. We're going to rearrange the presentations that we can have the training tools. You said you are interested in those tools. We are not going to limit ourselves with the grab stickers, but we are going to upload all the tools that were used for the promotion of menstrual hygiene, and so that they can be available to you very soon. Thank you so much. Other remarks, other feedback? So after this webinar next week or above that, when you look at the website, and if you have suggestions for improvements and to make it easy to browse documents that you need, do not hesitate to get back to us. As you can see on the chat box, the email address, Claudia's email address, Claudia and DNFman, and we're going to respond to your questions and your needs. Maybe we can terminate this webinar if there's nothing else you'd like to talk about. Do you want me to go back to the website? Or did I just move very fast? Would you like us to go back to the website? I tried myself to slow down a little bit, my pace. I'm sorry, I was a little bit late. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you properly. This is Sehin from the ministry. I'm calling from the ministry. Morning, good afternoon, everybody. That's a very interesting presentation. If you can come back to the presentation, thank you. Maybe we can orient it on the presentation of the tools, because the objective is to present the tools. Is that okay for you, Aingu? Okay, that's fine for me. Thank you. When we speak of the tools, we have 5 types of tools: strategy, and the implementation tools, the training tools, and support for communication. And when we speak of strategy, we have the strategy for behavior changes. We had the webinar on Tuesday to share about the strategies used for behavior change, with the different types of approaches used by RANO WASH in terms of behavior change approach. And when we look at this presentation today, and this is dedicated to behavior change and strategy for behavior changes available online. So this is the strategy for behavior changes, and with the different approaches developed, used by the project. And it's the same thing for the gender strategy and social inclusion. Gender strategy and social inclusion was shared on Wednesday, and this is elaborating more. And one of the things that we mentioned is that the promotion of menstrual hygiene. Let's go back down. Let's see. Because one of the norms we have to respect in terms of menstrual hygiene, and when we say fatembulana, this term in Malagasy means that it is a taboo and cannot be discussed. So that the concept behind the fatembulana is also a reflect of the social norms experienced by women and young girls. So when we say fatembulana, that is something complicated. So here are the activities we mentioned when we speak of gender. But this is available within the RANO WASH website. All these documents, these tools are available. So if we go back a little bit, we have the briefs, which is showcasing the summary of all the interventions of RANO WASH related to the management of menstrual hygiene. So this is the frame we used. These are the same things as I shared earlier. We have the grow-up seekers, and the red petal is related to menstrual hygiene and we had trainings we provided to the seamstresses and the development of their business models related to the production of reusable hygiene pads. So that these are the reinforcement of the identity of those seamstresses. But in terms of relationships, because when we speak of gender, we speak of the three domains, which is the individual, to strengthening the capacity of that individual, the capacity building, and the linkages, the setting the linkages between those individuals. And the third thing is the structural aspect, the structures in the community that we have to strengthen, maybe even the institutions like the schools and the healthcare facilities in the communes. And when we speak of the implementation tools, we have guides to produce masks and sanitary pads. It's in English, but we also have the French version, which will be rendered available very soon. But for the moment, we have this the English versions, and also we have ways to models, patterns for laying on fabrics, because sometimes those young girls are saying, the hygiene, the sanitary pad is so big, and sometimes they say that it's so small, and you have to there are some places where they do not use underwears but using source instead, and we have to design sanitary pads which is responding to the needs of those women and young girls. So we need to design adapted products to the types of clients in the region. So here we have the grow up stickers with the 5 petals, and the red petal is representing and here we have the curriculum for training developed by You First for those seamstresses, and Akanya Vuk also provided some trainings on how to design sanitary pads. We have a system of communication around the grow up stickers to promote menstrual hygiene that you've seen on the grow up stickers used by the local promoters. This is the grow up sticker, and here we do not have the petals yet, and once they're using when they practice the behavior, and then they receive a petal related to that behavior, and this would be stuck inside the house. So if we go back a little bit, so these are the tools we shared today. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go back again and have a look at the website. So this is the website. If you enter inside the project, you can have a look at the different components of RANO WASH. If you want to have a look at the governance, private sector, and behavior change. And we are working today now on gender and social inclusion related to menstrual hygiene. That is totally related to behavior changes. So when you have a look at this, you may have a look at the different elements related to gender and to promotion of menstrual hygiene, and you can have a look at the different tools that we shared during this webinar. So we're going to add up the training tools we used for the seamstresses and the young entrepreneurs. No more questions. I do not see questions anymore. I don't know if you'd like to ask more questions. Do you have other questions? If there's no more questions, no more feedback, thank you so much, everybody, for your attention, your participation to this webinar. And as we shared already on the we shared on the chat box all the information, the mail address you can use if you want to send more feedback and recommendation. And this afternoon we're going to have two other webinars on market-based sanitation, and the third at 5 we're going to speak of the dynamism of the monitoring and evaluation and learning. Good afternoon, everybody, and we hope to meet you again for the next webinar. Thank you.